Today, in this session, I will cover join queries. So many times we discuss if we can store data in the multiple tables to avoid the data redundancy and inconsistency. But when we think practically, we need to retrieve this data from the multiple tables, right? So in the Oracle, there is a provision of join queries. So with the help of join queries, we can retrieve data from the multiple tables, right? So definitely when we want to retrieve data from the multiple tables, right, there should be some common attribute that will help to join the tables. In the previous session also many times we discussed with the help of primary key and foreign key concept, right, we can retrieve the data from the multiple tables, right, and we can avoid the data redundancy here, right. So how here in the join query we will discuss how your primary key and foreign keys helps to join the two tables and to retrieve the data from these two or more tables, right. So here consider, actually basically there are different types of join operations. So first is inner join, then second is the outer join, and third is self join. So in this session, I will cover the inner join operation, right? Today, we will have discussion on the inner join operation with the example, right? So here we will consider the two tables. First one is the employee table, and second is the department table. With this simple database, we will discuss how join operation works here, right? So assume employee table with the three attributes: employee ID, employee name, and department ID. To perform the join operation, one field should be common in both the table. Here, assuming the department table, there are two attributes: department ID and department name. For simplicity, I am taking only two attributes. There can be other attributes: department HOD, department location, right? So to discuss this concept, only I have considered two attributes here. Assume there are 4 records in the employee table, and these records are employee 1 with the employee name, suppose X, and department ID is 10. Then employee 2 with the name Y, and the department ID is again 10. Employee 3 with name Z and department ID is 20. Right? And employee 4 with the name P and with the department ID 10, for example. So assume these are the records exist in the employee table. Then second, in the department table, assume the suitable data. Assume there are 2 departments, 10 and 20. My department name is Com, and 20 department represents here, for example, mechanical department. Right? So I hope you are clear with this database. Now, what is my query here? I want to select employee details along with the department name. With department name. Right? So as you know, in the employee table, only employee name and department IDs exist, but also I want to display here department name. That department name is stored in the another table, that is department, right? So there is a common field, that is department ID, in both the table, right? So department ID is the primary key in the department table, but it is a foreign key in the employee table, right? So how join query helps you to retrieve data from these two tables, right? So with the help of inner join operation, we can retrieve this data, right? So how you will write here join queries, right? So the syntax for join queries, inner join operation, is select here. Now you know in the query what is mentioned, we want to retrieve employee details along with the department name. So definitely after select clause, there will be attributes, those you want to display, right, in the result. So first attribute that I want to display is, for example, employee name, right? Also, as I want to display here department ID, right? So department ID exists in both the table, right? So here, student, you need to mention from which table you want this department ID, either from employee table or department ID. If you do not mention this table name, there will be ambiguity error. Your Oracle compiler will confuse whether to take this department ID from employee table or department table, right? And that's why it is required here. So employee name is only unique field which exists in the employee table. Here, no need to mention the table name, right? And for table name, we can also use here aliasing, that I will cover in the next line here, how you can give the aliasing to the tables, right? So here employee name, I want in the result. Along with this, I want department ID. When we perform the inner join operation, either you can take this department ID from employee table or department table, both will be correct, right? Because we are putting here matching criteria to join the table, right? So here my department ID I want to take from the employee table, and also E is the aliasing that I'm giving to the employee table, right? So from which table I want to retrieve this department ID, that is employee table, and assume E is the nickname of this employee table. So E dot department ID, right? I want to display in the result. Now the third field that I want to display here in the result is the department name. Now department name is stored in the department table, right? So again, department name is only unique field that is in the department table. No need to mention the department table name. But even though you can mention here department name, say so D dot D name means from department table I want to retrieve this department name, right? So these three fields I want in the result. From which table you want, right? So here is the syntax from employee. Employee is the name of my table, and by giving space you can write here aliasing, right? So this E will be nickname for the employee. So instead of this lengthy name, you can directly use here the nickname of that table, right? And here instead of single table, now my tables will be two tables, right? In the previous session, whatever concept we have covered, that select queries we have executed on the single table, and that's why after from clause we have mentioned only single table name. But now I want to retrieve data from both the table. So both the table name should appear in the from clause, right? So my second table is department. You can give here aliasing to this department table, right? So assume D is the nickname of this department, right? By giving space, just you can write down here the nickname, right? So from I want to retrieve this data, display this data from this employee table and department table. Right? I hope you are clear with this. Now after mentioning this, my third clause is the where clause. Right? So whenever we want to display data from the multiple table, right, and when we perform the inner join operation, always we need to mention here the matching criteria. That is, it is called as the equi-join condition, right? So join condition we need to mention here. So my join condition will be here, E dot department ID equal to D dot department ID. Instead of the complete table name, I'm using here the aliasing, right? So this is the matching criteria that we need to mention in the join operation, right? So this query will retrieve you in the result, right? What this query will retrieve you in the result? So my column names are employee name, then E dot DID, and third column D dot D name. And the result, what will appear? My employee name is what? 1. Then department employee name is X, right? Then my department ID is 10. So now which department is matching with this 10? So here my compiler or this equi-join condition will find the matching department with the employee, right? So 10 here in the employee table, it is 10 that we are matching with the DID in the department table. So here my department is matching, so my department name will be computed here, right? Similarly for the second employee, my second employee is Y, right? And for second employee again, my department ID is 10, right? So my compiler will match this with the department ID in the department table. That who will fulfill this criteria? My where clause. In the where clause, we have mentioned this criteria. E dot DID should be equal to D dot DID, right? So again, my department name for the second employee will be computer. Then for the third employee, that is said, my department ID is 20. So again, I want to retrieve here the department name for the 20. So it will be mechanical, right? And my fourth employee is P with the department 10. Again, this 10 will match with this department and that will return the computer. So this result will appear in the screen, right? After executing this inner join queries, right? So this equi-join operation we use here for the inner join query, right? So this inner join operation only retrieve the data from both the table. Those are matching this inner join condition, right? There is an alternative syntax for this inner join operation that also I will cover here. Here, this another syntax is select. This is the alternative syntax. Select employee name, then E dot department ID and D dot department name, right? From from, now which table I want to refer here? Two tables, employee table, right? So employee, right? This is my first table name that I mentioned in the from clause, right? Here we need to mention the first table name in the from clause, then inner join. After mentioning the first table name, you can use here the keyword inner join. So this keyword inner join will link this table employee with the table that you mentioned after this inner join word, right? So inner join department, right? So instead of this syntax, previous syntax, now I am using this alternative syntax here to retrieve the same result, right? That is select employee name, employee ID, department name from the employee inner join department on. Now, after mentioning the second table name, you need to mention the inner join condition, right? So there is a keyword on. In the syntax, there is a keyword on. After on, you can mention the inner join condition, which is same as the previous syntax, that is on e.did equal to d.did, right? I hope student you are clear with this syntax, right? This is the alternative syntax for the previous query. Say many students forget to mention this equijoin condition, inner join condition. So what will happen when you will forget to mention this equijoin condition? So what will be the result? There will not be any error, but the result will be the Cartesian product. You might have heard this word Cartesian product. So that same concept is also applicable here in the table operations, right? So when we join the two tables, this Cartesian products returns how many rows in the result? That is n by m, where n is the number of rows in first table and m is the number of rows in the second table. Right, so we'll see here what is the Cartesian product of these two tables, right? So why we are discussing this concept of Cartesian product without a join condition? My join operation retrieves the Cartesian product result of the two tables, right? So this Cartesian product will be based on this formula: number of rows in the first table and number of rows multiplied by number of rows in the second table, right? So how many rows are there in the first table? That is 4. And how many rows are there in the second table? My n is 4 here and m is 2. So total number of rows, those will displayed by the result here, it will be 8. 4 into 2, that is 8. Right? So what will be the Cartesian product here without this inner join condition? If you are display here employee name, employee ID, for your understanding, now I am putting here both the IDs, e.did and d.did and department name. Right? So for my first employee ID will be 1, right? And whose name will be X, right? Employee ID is 10. So here the Cartesian product creates the relation of each record of the table, one table with the each and every record of the another table, right? So here X 10 is my department ID and department ID will be 10 here for the another table and department name is com. Then second employee Y with the department ID 10, my department ID will be 10 and department name will be com. Right? Then again, third employee is Z. My department ID is 20, but in department ID it is 10, and then my department name will be com. Right? Then the next employee is P with the department ID 10, and my first record in the department table 10 with the computer department. Right? Similarly, now my second record of the department table will be associated with all the records in the employee table. Right? So my Cartesian product will create the relation of this employee table records with the second record of the mechanical, right, department, right? So here my mechanical department ID is 20, 20, 20, 20, and here will be mech. So without inner join condition, my result will be this and your answer will be wrong. When you want to display record from both the tables, right? So inner join condition is very important here, and many students forget to write this inner join condition, and that's why I'm giving this example to clear your doubts here. Without this condition, what will be the result? And this result will be invalid result, right? So if you compare here, right, my result will display employee name with 10. For first record, my computer department is valid, right? Because the association of employee records are created with the department records, right? Then for Y also it is 10, so my department is correct. But for Z, if you observe, for Z, this result will be wrong. Because for Z, my department ID is 20 and the association is created with the 10, right? That is 10th department, right? And the department is comp here. So this will with the invalid record, right? Similarly, for the P, my record will be correct because my department ID is matching here. So my this inner join condition will retrieve these records, valid records, right? Those are matching the criteria in the inner join condition in the result, right? So this is invalid record. So my Cartesian product will retrieve this, but my inner join condition will discard this record from the result. Similarly, if you observe here, this X is matching with this 20 department, which is invalid record. So again, my inner join condition will discard this record, right? Again, for Y, my matching condition is wrong, right? So again, this will return, this will discard this record from the result. Now Z, for the Z, it is correct, right? Because for Z, my department ID is 20 and it will return the valid record because my matching condition is correct here, right? So here E dot department ID is equal to D dot department ID, right? E dot department ID is equal to D dot department ID. So this is my valid record. Here my E dot department ID is equal to D dot department ID. My record is correct, right? Then here again it is correct, right? Here also it is correct and here it is correct. So in the result only these 4 records will appear, right? X first, second, fourth, and this 7th record, which is matching the department of the Z employee, right? And this is again invalid record, which is not matching the criteria, right? So from the join operation, right? This Cartesian product will retrieve as a part of the result without this equijoin condition. But when we put this condition, only the valid record, those are matching the both the IDs will retrieve in the as a part of result. I hope students you are clear with this. So next is the outer join operation that we will cover in the next session. Thank you.